Hi, my name is Cecilia Puna, and welcome to this episode of Brave New Women. All around the world, there are amazing, ordinary women doing extraordinary things. Brave New Women is about giving those women a platform and a voice, and it's about changing the way that women are perceived. And it's a way of inspiring all of us to do the things that we've always wanted to do. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be speaking to Sherry Shannon-Vanstone. So Sharon is a cryptographer. She's a mathematician. She's an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. And she has been working in the fields of STEM, business and leadership. And in 2018, she founded Profound Impact, which is an association to connect great people to doing great things. So welcome, Sherry.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today, Cecilia.
Sherry, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what is a cryptographer?
A cryptographer is an occupation of developing cryptographic codes, and cryptographic codes are encryption codes. I worked for the U.S. government, and we made codes. We developed them to keep the U.S. government and the nation's secrets secret. And so a cryptographer works on that side to make codes, develop codes, and they're called codes, but they're algorithms, and to break those. So I did both sides of it. So I worked on developing algorithms for, as I said, keeping the secret and confidential. And then I worked on the other side, which is we're trying to break or crack or find a way to get into messages that are encoded or encrypted by a different algorithm.
Mm-hmm. And what was your...
There's a lot of mathematics. It uses a lot of mathematics. That's why there's mathematics and computer science. And now there's many more tools than when I was working with the U.S. government. I have no idea what tools they have, because it was a top secret clearance that I had at that time, and I no longer have it.
And what was your initial background as a mathematician?
I did my graduate work at University of Tennessee in mathematics, but it was mostly in mathematical statistics was my emphasis. When I worked for the U.S. government, of course, they train you. They give you extensive training on top of all your training that you already have in mathematics or computer science. They take a variety of individuals there and make them into cryptographers.
Mm-hmm. Now, where did your initial interest in maths and computer science come from?
It started early when I was in the second grade. My father, who was an operating engineer in Ohio, wanted to become an electrical engineer. So in those days, virtual meant paper. So he received these booklets from the International Correspondence School, it was called, and he would complete a booklet, work through all the exercises, put it in the mail. Then he would get a response back, yes, you passed, and here's the next booklet. So he was working through those, and I said, Dad, can I work along with you? And these booklets. And so I started doing the exercises with him. And so that was when I was in second grade. So he continued on in the courses. And by the time I was fifth grade, of course, they take these standardized tests all the time, and around the fifth grade to hopefully provide some insight into, your aptitude. And I scored 10th grade in fifth grade. So after that time, no one could really tell me that I wasn't good at it, because I had the test results that showed me that I was. And from there, I was very fortunate to have women teachers in high school, junior high and high school, and mathematics, which was, I think, somewhat unusual and very encouraging. Even my junior and senior year of high school, my teacher I had the same teacher for both years. She even tutored me in other courses that she thought I would need that wasn't offered by my high school, so that when I went into university, that I was more prepared to start a degree in mathematics.
So she saw something in you that she felt was worth nurturing.
Yes. And I've had many of the individuals that have done that and seen that talent and realizing that, there's no one's born with mathematical geniuses. And I'm not saying I'm a genius, but I did have an aptitude for it because I worked and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the numbers and of course, mathematics is more about letters than numbers, but I enjoyed the logical process. It's like, okay, now I have something. Mathematics, especially algebra, is what do you know, what you don't know, and what you know, and then how do you use what you know to find out what you know. So, a fundamental problem solving.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you worked for the US government as a cryptographer, and yes. What have been the other sort of milestones in your career?
So I worked for the U.S. government for 6 years. It was a wonderful opportunity there. I really was able to use mathematics in many different ways. However, my last position there, it was the best position I could ever have. I enjoyed it. I was a liaison with the State Department. So I was able to use my technical background, but also develop my interpersonal skills and then working as a liaison. And the reality was that I had moved up as far as I could go in that department. This boss traveled with me one day and he said, Sherry, if you have to move on if you're going to move up. And I'd already received 2 promotions in 2 years. And so I was so disappointed that I'd have to leave that department. So I decided, if I'm leaving, I'm leaving. So I had an opportunity in Silicon Valley with a startup, totally different, totally crazy idea in lots of ways. But I said, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. I can do this. And I went to Silicon Valley for a startup. And I had a great opportunity. I didn't use my mathematical skills as much, but my interpersonal skills. I set up Asia Pacific distribution for them. So the company was in information security. So the same work that I was doing, not quite the same work, but the foundational work that I did at the U.S. government, I was able to utilize. And because I had the credentials and I knew what I was selling, because I knew that mathematics behind the product, it certainly was a unique differentiator for me. And I went into Asia Pacific because they asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be in sales. And they go, okay, because it's a startup. That's a good thing about startups. They can go, oh yeah, you can do this, you can do that. And it was a great opportunity. 13 different countries from Japan to New Zealand, setting up, working with different companies in each of those countries, training them and going out and working with the customers. We sold to multinationals. We sold to governments, to banks. It was very bulk encryption of all the data that was coming across their big data links that they had to these countries. And it was a great opportunity for me because as I said, 13 different cultures. It was just, and everyone was unique, of course. And so I was given a huge opportunity because I had a great education and I had worked in the area. It opened doors for me, especially in Japan, where credentials matter extensively, especially for a woman. They don't really know how to deal with Western women at that time. So I don't know about now, but at that time it was, they looked at me and they said, Sherry Shannon, you're a man, you're not a woman. Because they couldn't get it around their head that I was an anomaly to them. And that was fine because I was able to go into like the Bank of Japan, to different places where if I'd have been a Japanese woman, sorry to say, they would not have allowed me to do this.
How was, there are the 13 different cultures of the countries that you were working with. But what about the difference of culture between the US government and a startup?
Well, that's quite interesting. You know, with the U.S. government, there's definitely bureaucracy. It's also pretty much wasn't a 9-to-5 job, but let's say it was that, because they really wanted you to stay in that box of for many reasons. One is a life-work balance, but also because I had a security clearance, and they did not necessarily want me in the office by myself working on top secret documents. So there was a difference in the amount of work that I was expected to do. And I was ambitious, so I was ready to give, 24 hours a day. I traveled extensively. My last year with that company, I was traveling for 250 days away from home. But I had the energy and that. The thing that I'm not that I was surprised, I just didn't expect, I didn't think about it, was the toxicity. I joined an organization that I already knew some of the people there. I knew the CEO, and I knew how he was. However, when I started working there, I could stand up to him. I had a strong backbone, I'll say, and I didn't let him push me around. But the way he pushed other people around, men and women, or he just degraded them, he talked down to them, he cursed to them. And I just said, wow, this is not the way you treat people. And although I had a huge opportunity with this company, I decided to leave because of that. But I said, I want to be somewhere. And because, I'm making this company lots of money. And in fact, they did an IPO later. I made some money from the initial public offering also, but I made the founders lots of money. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to be a part of an organization where I can help drive the culture, and especially for women. And so that was my motivation. And so that was the biggest thing that I felt the difference is how the respect for people and how you treated the individual. My boss expected you to come to work on Saturdays and be there all day on a Saturday. Now, he did bring in bagels and cream cheese to help, incent you to come in on Saturdays, but it's just the work ethic and the lack of respect for individuals, work-life balance, and just the individual itself. Just saying, Cecilia, you are valuable to this company, and we appreciate your value. Instead of putting people down and calling them out, not making fun, but calling them out and calling their mistakes and making them very, very public and embarrassing people was just something I didn't think was necessary, and I don't like that leadership style.
So where did you go from there?
I came to Canada. And so I moved from Silicon Valley and came to Canada to a startup, a competitor of the company in Silicon Valley. And I was able to join the company at an early stage. And I came in as a VP, a vice president of sales and marketing. And so I made sure I wanted to come in at a level that I could help drive the culture of the company. And it was exciting. Again, it was a much smaller company, although it was a competitor of the Silicon Valley company. It was just that it was the grassroots. It really was. There were only 5 of us, and just to come in and being able to help build out a company and bringing in the people and the teams and building up a culture. We were also working with a new algorithm and a breakthrough algorithm that changed the world in this area, because in the 90s, what were we doing? We were moving to the mobile platforms and all of that. The existing algorithms were very, very slow and would not work on a mobile phone. So with this new technology, it was exciting because, one, we had to go through the commercialization of it, the standardization of it, because there is a onerous process, which is good because anything that you're going to utilize, even for commercial confidentiality, has to be the strongest that it can be, because we have our in countries and other companies that would love to get some of your trade secrets. So we needed to provide the highest level of security for our customers. So it was awesome because I was working in a not only in a startup again, but also bringing a new technology and commercializing that technology. And that's why I often call myself a trailblazer, because a trailblazer does something that's never been done before. And I versus somebody who's just refining a process or refining something. At the Silicon Valley company, I was a trailblazer in setting up all of these distribution channels, but I wasn't a trailblazer as far as the technology goes. So I had an opportunity with the Canadian company to do both.
And then did you then left there to set up your own companies? You say you were serial.
So what happened was I became involved with the founder of this company in Canada. And although I had this background, with 15 years in information security, as the company grew, it was viewed as nepotism. No, it wasn't. I mean, I had my own background. I could stand on it, but I just said, you know what? To Scott, my late husband, I just said, I'm fine. I'll go off and do something else. I can help you from the side and be there for you, but I don't want this to get in the way. So he was, the founder. He's on the board, and it was fine when there were only 8 or 15 of us, because they knew who I was. As the company grew to 450 people, it was just like, woo, they just lost sight of that. They just saw that I'm a VP and I'm with Scott. He's on the board and I'm being treated differently. So I left and I went to MasterCard as a VP of electronic commerce for a little bit of time. And that was interesting and fun, but it really wasn't for me. There's a saying that says, it's Oliver Wendell Holmes said that every now and then a man's mind is stretched by an idea or a sensation, and it can never go back to its former dimensions. So I'd already got the entrepreneurial bug. My brain had been stretched, and I just said, I can't work for this type of organization again. MasterCard's great, and I did very well financially there, but it wasn't that entrepreneurial space that I had come to want to be and inspired. So I took some time off. I decided I'd never taken time off from university. I went right to the U.S. government. I went to Silicon Valley. I never even I might have taken a week off.
Wow.
To travel. And I'm thinking, I've never taken a break. And since I don't even remember him. You go from high school to university, maybe the 3 months between, but when I was in graduate school, I taught during those times. So anyway, I decided I'd take a break, and Scott and I were building a house together. So we were moving into it, and I could say, oh, you know what, I'm going to just do some consulting. So I did some consulting for a few years. I became a CEO of a publicly traded company. It was secure document management for the health industry. It was early days, and we had an app before people knew what an app was. So I did that for a while on consulting, and it wasn't, then I came back and did some consulting for Scott's company. It was called Certicom. It was acquired by BlackBerry, RIM, Research in Motion, BlackBerry company in 2009. So once it was acquired by the bigger company, I did some consulting for them. And I then, 2011, 12, Scott and I both left BlackBerry, and we decided to start a new company, and it was called TrustPoint Innovation. And TrustPoint, again, was brand new, right? So this was great. And we took the technology that we utilized for the smartphones, and well, of course, the technology is used almost everywhere now. But at that time, we said, what about the autonomous vehicle? What about the connected vehicle? They need security. because an automobile today is it's a computer on wheels. So they need security too. They need confidentiality. They need authentication. They need all of these functions that we can offer. And so we started a new company. And this was great because then I wasn't just employee number 5, I was employee number 2, along with my husband. And so we immediately, we were called by the U.S. Department of Transportation. They heard about us and they said, hey, would you be our security expert? Here's money. And we go, yes, we will be. And so we started that journey in 2012. And again, it was great because we were building up a startup with the culture. And Scott became ill and he passed away in early in 2014. I continued to run the company. And so this was the company that I was going to raise the investment and then hire all the people. And so it was a wonderful challenge and very successful. And I sold the company in 2017 to Robert Bosch company, which is a German private company, and they do a lot of work in the automotive space. Mm-hmm. And so we needed somebody like that to be the the real issue was we were dealing with the automotive industry, and we're a startup, and we have these T's and C's, terms and conditions, with every contract, and they were just too onerous for a startup. So I said, I need to work with a company or have a backing of a company that understands these T's and C's and can take on that type of liability. So really, I would have loved to just continue working there and running the company, and we were doing lots of work, as I said, worldwide in this area, of course, an emerging area of security, which is for this industry. There's all kinds of over-the-air activation as your cars now talk to a lot of different entities, from service repair shops to the manufacturer. So there's a lot of this communication, and that has to be protected.
So what is it that you love about being an entrepreneur?
I love that you can make, you can see the impact that you're making. You're hiring people, and you see, and also because it's not just, I'm not as a bank where I'm hiring an individual and I don't really even know. I might be a president of the bank and all these people that work for me. I don't really get to impact their life directly. You're not necessarily bringing out new products. You're not going into new markets necessarily. And even if you are, you have people, you have the layers between you and them and a lot of the employees. So here I touch every one of their lives, and we make it a team. So I love building teams and building in them, instilling in them, learning how to learning new things, seeing how they get excited about the successes, because they know they are an integral part, and we need them. At a startup, you can't have any slackers. Everybody is, you can see what everybody's doing. You can see if they're not doing their work. That's the sad part about it, but you do have to let people go. I haven't had to do that at my current company. I'm trying to hire slower and fire quicker. But today, just the energy, the energy of learning new things. And so I left the information security area when I sold my company in 2017 because I have a non-compete. And that non-compete kept me from, but also I really didn't think I was going to start a new company. I said I was retired or rewired. I was going to rewire my brain. Remember that brain that said I was going to be an entrepreneur? I was thinking, you know what? I can rewire that. But 3 months later, I started a new company. And it was, I started working with the University of Waterloo in Waterloo, Ontario. I've tried to measure the impact of one of their faculties, in particular the math faculty, and looking at their alumni, their faculty, their stakeholders, their industry partners. How can we measure impact? And how can we visualize impact? And visualizing impact to me is just as important as measuring it, because people get inspired by when they could see it. So
what do you mean by impact?
Impact, such as how many companies have been started, how many entrepreneurs have been developed, how many patents, what's the economic impact that these alumni have made, how many organizations did they volunteer for? So the impact is really organizational focus, because they have to decide what they want to measure and what they want to display or highlight. So we worked with organizations and said, what do you want to measure? So we'll go out and get the data, and we'll help aggregate public and private data together, and we will help show the impact of your organization, your programs, specific things, so we could drill down. So profound impact, I founded it to do this measurement of impact and visualization of impact to inspire future impact. So this is the whole thing about it, is we want to say, this is what we've done, yay! But how do you inspire other people to do more and to collaborate? So it was really about this big vision to have, but look at what we've done, we inspire others to do more. And we can dice the data and look at the data in many different ways, and to try to understand. And impact is a big word, but we can get down to the granularity. For example, we worked with Waterloo Co-op, which is the University of Waterloo Co-op's one of the largest co-op programs in the world. And we worked with them to look at where their graduates are, and what possible, we were trying to say, what did this program and how did it impact their career trajectory?
What does a co-op mean in Canada? Because I think it probably means something different.
It's cooperative education, where you take a course, and then you go 4 months and work for a company.
Okay.
And then after that 4 months, you come back. And if you're in a co-op program, it takes you longer to get your degree, because you have, I think, 4 to 5 of these 4-month work terms. And then you can come back. And feedback that into your learning process. And so it's like, I learned something, I go and practice it. Okay. And I learn more while I'm doing the job, and then I can come back, work on my education. So it's in blocks of time. So when you have those 4 months, you are just working for a company. You're not taking any courses, not structured courses within your program. And so then you graduate, and then many of them go to a company that they work for during their co-op term. So what we would want to do, we wanted a feedback loop. The co-op program at University of Waterloo had no feedback loop. They didn't have any contact with their graduates after they graduated. So we said, okay, we can get public data. You've got this private data, about the individuals. We'll put that together, and then we can look at their career trajectory. We can say, female identifying individuals versus male identifying individuals, how is their career trajectory different? Get to the granularity, majorities versus minorities, to provide a feedback loop and actionable insights into the data to say, we can do this better. We can do this programming better. We can offer maybe a little more training in this area. And today, of course, it's here. It's not just a feature of work. It is the work today, that individuals work differently than we did when we graduated and went on to an organization. So anyway, so profound impact is about data, about getting into the data, trying to visualize it, trying to understand it, and just working with the organization, figuring out what you want to measure. Because as anything, you have to decide that first. And then you decide what impact is. for your organization. And we work with many social organizations, in particular, such as SHAD Canada, which works with marginalized high school students and gives them programming in their senior or junior year to help them to decide what courses they want to take, what they want to major in. And they have over 9,000 alumni. We said, where are they at? And what's the impact of your program? So you're trying to do that. Our latest product is research impact. So we use a lot of data, but we also bring in AI and machine learning. And we've always been into big data, bringing it in, making it ingestible, and making it searchable, which is a big task in its own right. Then we take the algorithms that we developed along with the machine learning tools to match automatically the research funding opportunities to industry and academic researchers. Why does that matter? Is because there's over $300 billion in research funding available every year globally. And I don't believe we're getting the most for that research buck because it's not being matched properly. And I believe we can use tools such as AI and machine learning to do better matching of research funding opportunities with researchers to get the most research, effective research, because we need it as a society. We've got some really difficult problems we're trying to solve. And part of it is that we do not efficiently and utilize the funding that's available. So that's what we're doing now. Again, data, analytics, AI, pulling it all together and connecting and making, hopefully, our own impact as a company.
So you were talking before about the, I think it was the university or the co-op of Waterloo. And you were talking about how you were tracking what was happening for careers for women, people who identified as women, people who identified as men. And what were the sort of results that you got back?
I'll give you just a couple of insights there. One is that women usually in the first few years moved up quicker than men. Mm-hmm. And I'll say men, I'll use male identifying individuals. But once they got to, and there's many reasons, as we know, they might take off for, to have children. They became the management level. So management within certain role, but then when it came to VPs and above, it really was. It's kind of saying, well, that's pretty obvious, but now we have the data to back it up, and we can say, okay, what can we do to change that? The other thing we found is that how often women change jobs versus men change jobs, and it turned out that again, women change jobs less, and part of that is again reinforcing the thing that sometimes we're not as intentional with our careers. And that's a generalization because many women are, but generally we say, okay, I have this job, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have a family, and I'm going to be, it's going to be a secondary goal maybe for us in our careers. But many of us, like myself, I've never had children. So it's like, okay, my career has been not, I wouldn't say intentional, but I say I'm intentional in my decisions at that time. I didn't say like, okay, I'm going to do this and then this and then that. Of course not, because boy, I'm all over the map. But now that I early learned that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and wanted to work with startups, then I was very intentional about that. So we just learned these insights, and that's to feed into the program. There's a lot more insights into it too about how many co-op students go on to work at one of their co-op program organizations, and it's surprising. You would think it'd be higher. Anyway, it's just interesting getting into the data, and of course the whole goal is to improve the programs. So and then also to shine a light and highlight where you've been very successful. Said, okay, we're really good at this, but we're not as good at this, so we've got to work on that part of it.
So it's actually getting, what I'm understanding is that profound impact is all about getting the having the data so that you can actually make decisions in terms of you can know where you're good, where you need to improve. And it's not based on impressions, it's based on data.
Yeah, yes, it's about drilling down into the data. And you know what, there's just also what's exciting about it is just that it's just great technology. I told you I worked at MasterCard. MasterCard, we had neural networks in those days. We were already doing machine learning in those days, in the 90s. But what we're doing today in AI and machine learning, forget chat GPT, which is, the large language models. It's about the processes we're able to do. Like even this research matching opportunity that we have, human beings, there's an 80-page application. If we write it out, we can have a process. We can adjust that data just like that. And we could pull out the deadlines, the eligibility requirements, the really key component, things that all of it matters, but the ones that say, okay, I'm not going to apply for this because I'm not eligible. Why am I wasting my time? Where a human being takes a while. They have to read that document. So what processes can we automate using this technology so that the human being has the opportunity to do the high value work, the work that the machine can't do? And that is writing the application. Maybe ChatGPT can do some of that, but the creativity part, the individual uniqueness of it, you will have to do that as a researcher. You have to put that part in there yourself. So what we are doing is trying to take the work, making the individual more effective and efficient. And also, as I said, making more accurate matches. So what's exciting is that this is all emerging technology. The 90s, we've had machine learning. Now we have computational power. We have the algorithms. We can and it's just moving so fast. But yet, there's still some hard problems. And that's what Profound Impact's doing. We're working on some of the hardest problems. Ingesting all this data. People go, oh, you can't do it. I said, we can't. We're not 100%. No, but if we improve somebody's workflow by 50%, we make them 50% more effective. We're working to get more, with our algorithms on. But if we can make them 50% more effective, look at what we're saving time and money in. And then also we make more accurate matches, then we are getting, again, more research for the research buck. So I'm saying all this is that this is such a exciting area, and that's what I get to do in this. I went from information security to this new world, and this was not my wheelhouse. I'm learning everything new every day, and my people are too. I'm bringing people in who maybe just graduated from university and giving them an opportunity to work with AWS serverless architecture, and things like this that they've not had the opportunity to do before, plus this new area of emerging area of AI and machine learning.
Well, it sounds incredibly exciting. I've got a few follow-up questions. One is, one of the things that worries me about AI and data and computers is the just the environmental impact. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but I just worry that we're going head first into using massive amounts of energy, and that I just wonder if that's where we should be going. I don't know if you've got
I really, we've been looking at into becoming a B Corp, and part of that is trying to measure your consumption and energy, and I really don't have the data to back that up yet, but I think you're right. We should always be concerned about it and make that part of the equation. Say, okay, one of the things that we found out, we're a virtual company. And I set it up even before COVID in 2018. I done the thing. I wanted to hire people across Canada, across US, even around the world. I haven't done that yet, but we can. Is that one thing is that it's less commuting, it's a less impact, hopefully a direct impact on the environment. But then we found out, that by these video calls and Zoom calls, what we're utilizing. So again, I'd like to get more into the data and to see really what it is for us as a company. I think, again, that's part of it, to be a corporate, social, responsible company. And we spend a lot of time on this as a company. We look at this. And so I agree with you. I think we all have to look and say, what is my impact on this, the environment? How much, what's my carbon footprint? Not only as an individual, but as a corporation. And keep this and I agree with you. I don't have that data. I don't know what that is right now, but I know that is something that my people, I have individuals that are dedicated to try to figure this out for us, because we should be held accountable and say, what are you doing? With all of this impact that I want to make, what negative impact am I having too? So again, I think that's a good point that you made, that we should all be aware and just say, okay, let's make sure that we keep this and as a task that we really need to be held accountable for.
Yeah. And then I think it's a question of balancing, well, what are the benefits and what are the downsides?
Yeah. If I can show you that
and everything that we're doing,
money, this much in carbon, emissions, because people work from home. But this is what we're doing with our technology and how we're utilizing it. So I don't have it, but we're working on that. And it's important to us.
And tell me about, you've mentioned a few times that you wanted to be, in companies, you wanted to be driving the culture. So what are the sort of things that are important to you in a company culture?
Understanding our why. We start with why, understanding what that is. When we started the company in 2018, we didn't set up our why until 2019, because it was a couple months. It was just the three of us. But then when we started bringing on other people in 2019 and 2020, so the first thing to do was, what is our why? And we came up with connecting great people to do great things. As we developed our products, we said, are we still doing the same thing? Maybe our why has changed, but we all said, no, this is still our why. So with that is a culture of your why, understanding that, and then you have your core values on top of it. Then you have your objectives and strategic goals and all of that. But the core values then are what we as a company want to do. And one is we want to be a great place to work at and to have worked. We're not going to keep all of our people. We had this big goal that we're going to keep 75% of our people for the next 5 years. We've lowered that to 50% of our people for the next 5 years. But in the last year, we've had no attrition. So the whole thing about it is setting the core values about what do we want to be in society? Again, having that social responsibility, including the environmental. We believe in volunteerism. So the things that the individual team members, we did as a team. We said, okay, now, and then we revisited every year. Are these still our core values? And so they know that is important to us and to me as a leader, that we respect each other. So there's many things in the core values, the 5 core values that we have, that we embrace, and we applaud each other for living up to those core values. The other thing I do is we have a monthly all hands. Because we're remote, we do this. Last year we were able to have an in-person all hands. Hopefully this year we will get cheap too. So it's to be showing them that we are, as a corporation, respecting our community. We're part of our community. We're part of the world. We're part of our being accountable for environmental and other responsibilities that we have. But also we respect the individual and their individual contribution. And we have a diverse team. So we are both all in Canada and US, but we are from 7 different countries. I have a young lady, a data analyst who is from Nigeria. She's living in Alberta now. And so we respect that diversity and inclusiveness. So that's a part of, like, they know it because it's just not words written on a wall or on our website. It's what we live every day. So that's the culture. The culture is about being held accountable for this. And I'm the one leading them to lead, and they are the ones providing insight. I'm not telling them that this is their core values. We decided as a team. But yet, taking stock and saying, is this still our core values? This is just still our why? And then measuring it. So we have a corporate social responsibility report every year. How are we doing in these things? And so the environmental is one of those we have in there. And hopefully as we get more and more data, we can get more and more insight into that. But so we publish that report, we make it public and say, this is what we're doing, hopefully to be inspiring other startups. Because I don't think there's a couple of things you have to do. You have to have culture and philanthropy. Mm-hmm. I believe a part of a startup. And then once it's there, it's ingrained. And then no matter who becomes CEO later in the corporation's life, these are the foundations. It's the foundation of the company. So given that, we measure that. And we do a report every year to say, how are we doing? Because I always say, if it's important, you must measure it. And so that's what I mean when I say culture is about, one is stating what you are and then being held accountable for it and reporting and saying, this is where we are. We're not perfect, but this is where we are in these areas.
And tell me a little bit about your work in supporting other women. What
I've had the privilege of being involved with an organization called Perimeter Institute. Again, it's in Waterloo, Ontario. It's the premier institute for theoretical physics. Physics is one area where women in all of the STEM areas, chemistry, biology, medicine, mathematics, physics is one where women are the most underrepresented. So I've been working the last 10 years as chair of the Emmy Noether Council. The name is named after a contemporary of a colleague of Albert Einstein, who was never recognized for her. She was a mathematician, never recognized for her impact until recently. And so there's a group of philanthropic individuals that we raise funds to support initiatives, all the way from curriculum in the junior high and high school to high school programs, summer programs, master's programs. We have a master's program. We have now a PhD program. We have fellows we bring in around the world, 6 months, fully fund them to be at Perimeter Institute and work with the researchers there. And we buy off their teaching. We bring in their families and women. We also do men, but I'm talking about the women's initiatives. And then we raise money for research chairs. So right now we have something called an Emerging Talent Fund, and our goal is to have 10 PhD students, female students from around the world, I can't even say the word. Still a long-standing and endowed, so that we can have 10 positions every year. So we're at 4 right now. So we've raised enough money for that. So I've been doing this for 10 years, and I just recently stepped down as chair. I'm still involved with the initiatives, and I was given an honorary doctorate from Western University in Ontario for this work that I've done. So I've received that recognition, but I also enjoy just being a part of it. And I work with a couple of other organizations, Women in Communications and Technology. It's a Canada-wide organization, and we have a Waterloo chapter, and we have a specific mentoring circles that we developed in 2019. It's going well. We felt that was where the gap was. There's a lot of organizations, but this is to help women in general with their careers and mentoring. But it's just been a joy to see the results that we've had at Perimeter and other initiatives that I've been involved with women in STEM. And of course, we need women in all areas. But I've been placing a lot of emphasis on STEM for most of my career because of my background.
Do you have any particular examples of women who've come through that program that really stand out to you?
Yes, there's several, and I really can't name one of them, but I can point people to the website that talks about them. There's several programs, and you can see that the young women come in for maybe the summer program. So we have a summer right out of high school. Now this is a international cohorts. They're just not from Canada. They're from around the world, and they bring in they get maybe 600 applications for 30 positions in everything they do. This is kind of the ratio, and they bring in, and so you get this opportunity to come into Perimeter Institute for the summer and spend 6 weeks or so, for maybe it's less than that, but then you see these individuals that then they come back for the master's program, and then a couple of them now are in the PhD program. So it's good to see that they, and but at the end they have to compete again every time to get back in to these programs, and to see that they have, and they're working in, fascinating areas like quantum matters and quantum computing and black holes, and, all of these things. There's 9 different areas at Perimeter, 9 different special research areas in physics there. So I can't name them right now, but I can see the faces that there are individuals that we have been able to support. There's one lady named Mina. She did her PhD from Stanford. She's from Greece. She went to Stanford, and we were able to recruit her to Perimeter from Stanford, where they wanted to keep her. And she's been with us since 1994. And we were able to get a research chair from her, a $5 million research chair funding for that. And she's a leading researcher. And so it's not just what we want to do for Canada, but it's also what we want to do for the world. So these are world-renowned researchers that we get the privilege to see them grow, see their careers progress, and to hopefully one day maybe I'll get to help measure their impact.
Incredibly exciting. Incredibly exciting. Sherry, we've talked about a lot of things. I've got a couple of questions I'd like, my sort of finishing questions. Before I get to my finishing questions, is there anything that we've missed that you feel is important?
I would like to bring up this one thing, and I mentioned this earlier in our conversation about my soapbox. Being an entrepreneur, being a woman, I've been through this many times. This is my 5th technology startup. I've had a few other startups too. And I've had 2 IPOs and 2 acquisitions out of this. So you would say I'm a successful entrepreneur. I'm still up against the same BS when it comes to investors. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that it has to change. We need to change. So I say, I'm going to come into the kitchen. I'm going to try to do something different, but I use the same recipe. If I use the same recipe and the same ingredients with the same tools, I'm going to get the same thing. So what I'm saying is VCs and these funds that are out there that saying they're funding women, they may fund 1 woman or 2 women a year. What are they doing with all this money? Because they're putting the same process. And I think we have to revise the process. And
you mean when you say the process, it's the process of how they choose where to invest
in. They're using the same template, the same process. And I was recently pitching. I was the only woman in the room. 3 other companies there, all male founders. And the scrutiny that I got was more than they got. And I'm a serial entrepreneur, successful. They not. And look at them.
It's got to change.
Somebody needs to call it out, and somebody needs to have it change. I love that there's all these funds, millions of dollars that are available for women founders in the U.S., in the world, in Canada. Yet, where are the women? Who are you funding? I want to see them. Why are we not having as many funded as men are every year? Because they're there. But why are we putting the same process on them? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have due diligence and all that, but this is broken and we need to fix it.
Otherwise,
all these funds are sitting on all these millions of dollars, and that's all they're doing. It's just sitting on that money.
Yeah. I interviewed somebody else for the podcast, and she's the CEO of a blockchain company. And she and her, I think it was her director of finance, sent out exactly the same email to investors, and he got significantly more responses than she did. So that's just confirming. It's just confirming exactly.
Well, I love that she did that, and I'd like to hear more about what she did, because I think that now she has some data to back it up. You know me, I'm about the data. This is my empirical experience, but it would be great to have more and more data about this. But we know it's broken. We know it's broken. We can get the data behind it to show that it's broken, but it's broken. So why don't we fix it? Why don't we start and look at our processes? There's unconscious bias here somehow and some way in the process itself. So let's throw it out. Why do we need the same process? Let's start it anew and come up with a different process and the results will be more women will be funded, and therefore then we can get the data about how successful. We've already shown through lots of data that women-owned companies are more profitable. I mean, there's lots of data out there for these kind of things. Now, let's just get more of them in the pipeline, and let's open up that tab, the money tab, and all these programs that everybody's doing. I appreciate them. For early entrepreneurs, startup, the first startup and things like that. They're valuable, but there's not the money's not there. There's all these programs. And I take a program after program, and I see these young women in these programs, and they're stuck in these programs. And then I said, just turn the money tab. Just turn it, because you've got it. And let's figure it out. That's how, of course, they have to be accountable. They have to do what they're saying. They have to, we want to make money here. We're not here. It's not a charitable organization. This is for-profit organizations that we're funding, and we want to make a profit. But let's look at the process.
When you say process, do you mean the interviews? Do you mean the questions that are being asked? What do you mean?
All of it. All of it.
All of it.
I just think, as you said, you look at an email that's from a woman, there's an unconscious bias there somehow. So that's what I mean. We have to look at, okay, where is that? So let's I don't know how to do it. I just think we have to do it. And it's just, again, maybe small, simple steps, but it was interesting. I was at a conference a couple of years ago, and even the Melinda Gates, they sent out her resume, removed her from so removed the things that would identify her, and they asked people what they even used AI, and it said, "Oh, this is a teacher." I mean, just looking at her. So not that she isn't. Maybe that's one of the good qualities she has. Maybe she is a very good, caring and a teacher. But it just like all of a sudden there's unconscious bias in what we're doing, and part of it is the algorithms, maybe in evaluating this. But an individual getting an email is not using AI. They're there and they're looking at it and they're going, okay. This is coming from a woman. This is coming from a man. If a man said to you, my credentials, how would you react? Yeah. If you took my resume and made it and put a man's name on it, how would it react? And it's different. So that's what I'm saying is that we know that. But so what's in the process that we can look at? and say, okay, let's just look at the whole process. And I say, sit down with the fund managers and the VCs and say, you know what? And I have a lot of friends that they're females working at a VC and they're excited about that. And yet I look and say, how many women are you funding? How many women? Again, the answer is maybe 1 a year, 2 a year.
Oh, gosh.
3 a year. Yeah. So that's when I say the process, all of that. And I'm not, it's nothing's easy. It's not going to be easy to revamp the program, but I say forget revamping. Let's start from the beginning. Let's just say, let's put a different lens on this and let's see how it works. Let's put a completely different lens on it. And let's maybe even throw out some of the processes that are there and just say, let's start anew and see what we can develop. And instead of this, a whole template. And at the end of it, this is what happens. They put the same template that has been used and it's not working.
You've partially answered one of my questions, which is, what has it been like for you as a woman in a very male-dominated?
You know what? I have been very successful for many reasons. It's probably hard work and good luck, and I think it takes both of those things. Being at the right spot at the right time. I've seen it with even some of my male friends. In the entrepreneurial, they got in a little late, or they came in at a different way, and they weren't successful. I'm one of the lucky ones because I have money to run my company. I can fund it myself because I've had successful exits. But still, I believe that what I'm doing is a scalable, profitable business, and I need to sell that to other people. And I need to get investment. I want to get investment because I've learned that alone I can do a lot. I can go faster maybe. But together we can go farther. So I want investors that'll come in and let's do great things. Instead of doing good things. I want to do good things too, but I want to do great things. And so that takes more money than I have. And so I want people come in with a vision that I have and maybe even help refine my vision because I'm constantly learning from my investors and my friends and my advisors because we have, it's exciting and challenging and we have some hard problems to solve and I want to be a part of it still, even at my age.
Well, Sherry, what I'm taking away from this conversation is that you're in an incredibly exciting industry. You're really at the forefront of what's happening. I'm taking away from it too the importance of data. That you need to know exactly what is happening. It makes me think of the book Factfulness by Hans Rosling, if you've come across that, where it's what actually are the facts. What is happening here? I'm taking away from it as well a very strong call for financing for female entrepreneurs, and that is something that needs to change in the way that female entrepreneurs are being seen and the credibility that they have being believed in their visions. So that's what I'm taking away from this conversation. Is there anything you'd like to add? Or is there?
No, I think of those are the key points, and I appreciate being able to amplify that message with you today. And I hope your listeners will all do our parts in trying to help change this.
Well, thank you so much, Sherry. I've really enjoyed speaking to you.
Great talking with you today. Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Brave New Women. Certain podcast sites such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Podchaser let you leave a rating and a review. The more ratings and reviews we get, the more people will listen and the more these women's stories will be shared. So I'd really appreciate it if you could. Thanks for listening.